بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أتمان الأكملان خير خلق الله أجمعين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ثم ما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Dearest brothers and sisters, and welcome. This is the fourth lesson now of Tafseer Surah Yusuf alayhi salam. Today, or rather last time, we got to the point in the story where Yusuf alayhi salam has told his father about this dream that he's had. Father's given him some amazing piece of advice, and thereafter the brothers now are having a hadu. They're having a discussion amongst themselves, speaking out of envy to their own brother Yusuf alayhi salam, and they suggest that in fact their father is in error. Why is his father in error? Because the fact is that they are an usba, a large sizable group, yet despite that father loves the other two more than them. So they express their envy. Inshallah, the next this dars inshallah will be covering verses 8, 9, 10 and 11 and 12 inshallah. Let's begin with the recitation of this part. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إذ قالوا ليوسف وأخوه أحب إلى أبينا منا ونحن عصبة إن أبانا لفي ضلال مبين اقتلوا يوسف أو اطرحوه أرضا يخل لكم وجه أبيكم وتكونوا من بعده قوما صالحين قال قائل منهم لا تقتلوا يوسف وألقوه في غيابة الجب يلتقطه بعض السيارة إن كنتم فاعلين قالوا يا أبانا ما لك لا تأمنا على يوسف وإنا له لناصحون أرسله معنا غدا يرتع ويلعب وإنا له لحافظون. Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya wal mursaleen. Nabiyyina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Okay, brothers. Would you like to move a bit closer, inshallah? And there'll be a pair activity, so you can choose who you want to sit next to now. Otherwise, when it comes to the activity, no one can move. They have to be with the person next to them. Okay, so let's go back to this verse where the brothers are speaking. What they say to each other, إِذْ قَالُوا لَيُوسُفُ وَأَخُوهُ أَحَبُّ إِلَىٰ أَبِينَا مِنَّا وَنَحْنُ عُصْبَةٌ. So they spoke to each other and they said, why is the case that إِذْ قَالُوا لَا يُوسُفُ وَأَخُوهُ أَحَبُّ إِلَىٰ أَبِينَا? Why is the case that Yusuf and his brother are more beloved to our father than us whilst we are an usba? One linguistic point we didn't mention last time, which is that if you look at the verse, the way they spoke, they expressed envy about the other two brothers. However, they never mentioned the second brother by name, did they? They mentioned him as Yusuf's brother. And when they mentioned Yusuf's name, they had this lam before it, La Yusufu, which is the lam of ibtida, which is for the purpose of emphasizing. That just, it's really to do with Yusuf alayhi salam. Yeah, they're really envious of him, but they don't even bother mentioning the name of Binyamin, because all they see is Binyamin's his brother. And that's another reason why they don't like him that much, because he's Yusuf alayhi salam's brother, not just because he is the other brother from another mother. The other thing is they said that they are an usbah. They said, we're tough guys, you know. So that means that dad should love us more. Now the usbah, there's two things you need to know. Usbah as Imam Shawkani rahimahullah said, and as the Zamakhshari as well, that it refers to a number of people, as in a group which is around 10. There's 10 people together in a group, they call that an usba. But the other side of it is, what does that represent? When someone identifies themselves as being part of an usba, which you can translate as a gang, it kind of teaches us the way that they think is that they are kind of like in amazement about their numbers. When people are in a gang, there's loads of us, they kind of marvel at their own numbers. And when they marvel at their own numbers, they think they kind of have the right to do whatever they want with other people, and other people, they're smaller, they're less in number, they can't do anything in return to us. We can do whatever we want to them. So this is the kind of mentality that is being reflected in their speech when they say nahnu usba. Okay, now Ibn Ashur rahimahullah mentions a very nice lesson. He says Allah taught them a lesson for thinking that their numbers really mean something. That because of their large number, that they are force, that they are someone, or they are people that they can do whatever they want, simply because of their numbers. And this is something in psychology, you know, that when you're part of a large group, you think just because you're a large sizable group of people that makes you tougher, and you can maybe bully other people, and because of your numbers, it means that you're quite strong, you can defeat other people. Ibn Ashur said Allah Jalla wa taught them a lesson, that even though they were more in number than the other two brothers, that never helped them in any way, shape or form. And he said that Allah Jalla wa taught the Prophet ﷺ's companions the same lesson in one battle, where they also marveled over their large numbers and thought that they could win the battle simply because of their large numbers. What battle was this? Not Uhud, no. Who said that? Yes, Ahsant. Hunayn. Hunayn, this battle, you like caramel? Yeah? This brother will give. Just pass it down to the brother. Hunayn, Allah Jalla wa Ala said, I think it's Surah Tawbah, that إِذْ أَعْجَبَتْكُمْ كَثْرَتُكُمْ. He censored the Muslims. He told them off that you suffered in Hunayn in the beginning. Why? إِذْ أَعْجَبَتْكُمْ, because you were marveling over your numbers. Muslims were really a big army on that day, as opposed to Badr, where there were just 300 or 1,000 at Uhud. They were a large number on that day, and they thought because of their numbers, they weren't really, no one was a match for them. So Allah, because of them marveling over their numbers, taught them a lesson. In the same way, nahnu usba, the brothers thought just because they're a large number, they deserve more. Allah also taught them a lesson, because at the end they end up doing sujood, out of respect to that other brother who was just less than us in number. Okay, so that was a linguistic point there that we learned from that verse. We spoke about that verse anyway. The next verse, اقتلوا يوسف أو اطرحوه أرضا يخل لكم وجه أبيكم وتكونوا من بعده قوما صالحين. They said, kill Yusuf or expel him to some land so that your father will look to you alone, and then you can be people who do right. Very interesting what they say now. They're talking amongst themselves. Okay, first they express envy and anger as well. They're angry at the fact that dad loves them more. Then they come up with a plan. What's the plan? Uqtulu Yusuf. Someone says, let's kill Yusuf. I mean, come on, that's crazy. Your own brother, and not just your own brother, your younger brother, kill him? That's crazy. أَوْ تَرَحُوهُ, or do tarh of him to some other place, some other land. What does tarh mean? Tarh means like when you toss something to one side. My youngest daughter, when we give her a tissue, say clean your face. So she cleans her face, very good. And what she do with the tissue? Tosses it. They say, come on, how many times I told you not to do that? He tosses it to one side. So they say either kill him or do tarh of him. Now they say to, not al-ard, to the land, meaning they got a place in their minds. That country over there, that village, that town, that town. No, they say arda, meaning it's nakira. It's It's not unknown to any land. Get rid of him any place whatsoever. Let's toss him into any other place except here with dad. So they hatched a plan. First plan, plan A, either kill him or toss him to some other place, anywhere. Why? Now they say something which gives us an insight into why they want to get rid of Yusuf alayhi salam. يَخْلُ لَكُمْ وَجْهُ أَبِيكُمْ, in order that the father's face may have khalwa with them. Yeah, they want dad's attention, which is represented by his face, to be exclusively for them and them alone. Yakhlu, yeah, we get the word khalwa. You know, khalwa means to be in private, yeah? So they just want dad for themselves. Okay, yakhlu lakum wajhu abikum. Okay, the plan's quite bad though. I mean, to kill our own brother. It's okay. وَتَكُونُ مِن بَعْدِهِ قَوْمًا صَالِحِينَ, because after we do that, we'll become righteous people. We'll sort ourselves out afterwards. You know how people do that sometimes? They think about, plan to do a bad deed. They say, it's okay, I'll make tawbah afterwards, I'll sort myself out afterwards. Uncle's got an off license. Come on, uncle, man. Sort it out. Selling khamr, a'udhu billah. Come on, this is wrong. It's okay, I'm doing Hajj next year. No problem. Come on, uncle. No, people do this all the time. We do that with our own selves. Brother, come on. This relationship with the sister, you can't do this, haram. It's okay, we're going to get married. Okay, but this is still haram. Even if you are going to get married. The justification is coming in. وَتَكُونُوا مِن بَعْدِهِ قَوْمًا صَالِحِينَ. Now this justification, is it good to think like this? Or is it bad to think like this? Is it good to think like this, or is it bad? Is it good to say that, I will ask Allah to forgive me? Because this is the tafseer here. Qurtubi mentioned that they are saying that we will ask Allah to forgive us. Yeah. The other tafseer, however, is not like this. The other tafseer is that وَتَكُونُ مِن بَعْدِ قَوْمٌ صَالِحِينَ, is that we'll sort things out with dad afterwards. After we, kill Yusuf alayhi salam or get rid of him, dad's going to be so upset, but it's okay. After we do that bad thing, we'll sort things out with dad. We'll make him happy. We'll make him happy. However, wallahu alam, it seems like this second view is stronger. Yeah, that they're not speaking about it from a religious perspective, they're speaking about it from a dunyawi perspective, that after we do this bad thing, and dad's going to be so devastated, man, when we get rid of Yusuf. Either we kill him or we toss him away. But it's okay, after we do it, we'll patch things up with dad. Okay. However, both opinions are there. And wallahu alam, which is the stronger opinion? Yeah, wallahu alam. We need to consider both. Tayyib. And now, we will discuss the lessons inshallah from this passage at the end of this third. So let's continue moving through the story. Okay, so now they declared one plan, plan A. قَالَ قَائِلٌ مِّنْهُمْ لَا تَقْتُلُوا يُوسُف. Now one of them speaks up. Yeah? How many are there? How many brothers are there? 10 or... It's 9, isn't it? Binyamin is the... Oh no, there's 10 now. There's 10. So they said the Usbah, they're 10. Now, the 10 of them there, one of them says, let's kill him or toss him to another place. And then another one speaks up and says, La taqatulu Yusuf. No, don't do that. Don't kill him. Okay, so what's the other alternative? The other alternative, Alquhu fi ghayabatil jub. Throw him into ghayab al-jub. Translated as the bottom of a well. But very interesting in the word that they used, because jub is a word used for well. But there's another very more common word for well, which is bi'r. Yeah, you have come across this word for bi'r. Bi'r in Arabic means well as well. So why jub? What's the difference between jub and bi'r? Well, Sha'arawi rahimahullah said in his tafsir that the difference is that the jub, is like a flat type of well. It's got no brickwork going around it. Like in the front cover of your course notes. It's not that type of well. Okay, it's the other which is flat, like a ditch, and as for bir, it's the one with the brickwork around it. So what does that show us? It shows us that they had in their mind the idea, or he at least did, to throw him into not just any well, but a well which is like a ditch which you can't even see. There's a well over there. Yeah, shows how, evil their intentions were. And not just throw him, ghayab. Ghayab from ghaib means unseen. They wanted to throw him inside a place in that ditch where no one could even see, had they come across that ditch-like well. I mean, what an alternative. You think the other one is quite sympathetic, but I mean the other plan B, to throw him in ghayabatil jubb. Wow, even that's quite evil. Fi ghayabatil jubb. Why? يَلْتَقِطُهُ بَعْدُ السَّيَّارَةِ. Oh, right, okay, so يَلْتَقِط, okay, which comes from laqt, which means to pick up something off the floor. بَعْدُ السَّيَّارَةِ, some caravan, means some other caravans that are traveling through that area will come across perhaps this jubb, find inside the boy, and then take him as a slave. يَلْتَقِطُهُ بَعْدُ السَّيَّارَةِ. So, don't kill him, throw him in a well and put him into slavery, and those are travelers, they'll come and take him away. Which kind of is saying that we can reach the same objective by doing less of an evil. Can you see that? Don't kill him, that's really evil. Do this other thing, and this other thing will still, meet the objective, which is to get Yusuf out of our lives. Okay? In kuntum fa'ilin. In kuntum fa'ilin, if you are going to do something, then just do this one instead. Don't do that one. Okay. قالوا يا أبانا ما لك لا تأمنا على يوسف وإنا له لناصحون. They said, okay, plan B has been accepted. All of them have now accepted plan B. Now they've accepted plan B, they go to execute the plan. What do? They go to dad. قالوا يا أبانا. Oh, our father. Now you just imagine. And his father is sitting there minding his own business, okay, and then the 10 brothers, they come along. They say, Ya Abana, ma laka la ta'manna ala Yusuf. Why don't you trust us with Yusuf? What do you mean? All of a sudden you come here and you're telling me, why don't you trust us with Yusuf? What's that all about? Ma laka la ta'manna ala Yusuf wa inna lahu lanasihun. And indeed, when it comes to him, la of tawqeed, nasihun, we are well wishers. Yeah, we are advisors. We only want best for little old Yusuf, especially when it comes to Yusuf. Lahu nasihun. So you can imagine, father's sitting there. All of a sudden, all the 10 sons have come and they're saying, Dad, what's the matter? Why don't you trust us with Yusuf? Dad, when it comes to especially Yusuf, we want real good for him, especially when it comes to him. Are they talking? How are they talking? It's quite strange, isn't it? I mean, if that happened to you, you'd think, what's going on here, right? Suspicious. Not even suspicious, it's kind of crazy, no? Talking like that. Just Yusuf, really, we just want Nasir, we're just really looking after him. Dad's thinking, what's going on here? The next thing is, they say, أَرْسِلْهُ مَعَنَا. Now they're kind of, trying to buttering up dad. Then they come with the attack. أَرْسِلْهُ مَعَنَا. Send him with us غَدَى, tomorrow. وَيَرْتَعْ وَيَلْعَبْ. So we can do two things. So they want to take him away somewhere tomorrow in order yarta'. Yarta' comes from the root of mar'a. Mar'a is actually it's a strange word to be used here because it refers to cattle when they graze, when they eat. Like cows and they graze the grass. So they're saying, send him with us tomorrow, we're going to make him feast. We're going to make him eat so much. When someone eats a lot, you say, well, he's eating like an animal. What's going on there? So they're saying, we'll send him with us, we're going to feed him so good tomorrow. وَيَلْعَبْ. And he's going to have a great time, we're going to play loads of games. La'ab. We're going to play loads of games. وَإِنَّا لَهُ لَحَافِظُونَ. And when it comes to him, Dad, inna, indeed, that's already one emphasis. Lahu, to him, another emphasis, just him exclusively. La, another emphasis, حافظون. We are protecting and preserving. We're going to look out for him, Dad. We're going to look out for him. Now, That kind of talk, it's crazy. Coming to dad and saying, Dad, why don't you trust us? We're going to take him tomorrow, we're going to feed him so much, he's going to play. Dad's going to be suspicious, right? Dad's going to be suspicious. You'd think that dad would say, no, it's not happening. True? You'd think dad would say, no, I'm not going to send him with you tomorrow. But what does dad do? Dad says, I don't want you to take him, but eventually do they get to take him or not? They do, right? So the question is, how comes Dad, Yaqub alayhi salam, allows them eventually, obviously after trying to dissuade them, to take Yusuf alayhi salam, when they're clearly talking in a very creepy, suspicious, sinister way? Why? Why does Dad allow that to happen? Is it a fair question or not? To ask the question, fair question or not? Yaqub alayhi salam, a great father, a prophet of Allah, why didn't he just say, look, I can tell from the way you're talking, you guys are up to something, it's not happening? Why? This is important because later on something strange happens, because Binyamin is then asked for again. The brothers say, send Binyamin with us back to Egypt. Yeah, and Dad, he lets them take Binyamin, even though that's after taking a covenant, but he lets him. So both times you're thinking, how comes Dad lets the sons take away the son? Now in the second instance it's a different reason. Yeah, it's a different reason. In the second instance he sees that in fact the brothers now, they're not as evil as they once were some 40 years ago. But today when they speak to him, why doesn't he say, no, you can't take him? Yeah. Okay. So that the father obviously knows the dream that eventually that the Yusuf alayhi salam will prosper, but still, you wouldn't want to put your son in a hard, difficult place or position or harm's way, would you? I mean, at least you'd say, no, it's not happening. So how comes? Anyone else can offer an answer? Yes.
He wanted to trust his sons.
He wanted to trust his sons. Give him a chance. But he's already told Yusuf Islam, فَيَكِيدُ لَكَ كَيْدًا, they're going to plot against you and scheme against you. Isn't it? He's already told them that I don't trust them one bit, nor should you. Yes?
He didn't want to act suspicious.
He didn't want to act suspicious, طيب. But at the same time, he doesn't want to lose his son, right? But he does let them take him. Nah, come on. Don't need your son to suffer in order to say, I was telling you the truth. Nah, it seems, Wallahu Alam, it's a difficult question. I admit it's a difficult question, but I think it's a reasonable question to ask. And Wallahu Alam, from the wording here of these two verses, it's clear that the brothers are not just acting suspicious, but they're acting psychotic. They're actually acting crazy. And you know when someone acts crazy, it doesn't make a difference what you say to that person. If a person is hell-bent on killing someone, and the way they're acting is crazy, is what you're going to say to them going to stop them? It's not, is it? When someone acts crazy, come on, they're saying, let's kill him. That's the level of craziness that they reach. So when they speak to Dad can see from the way they're speaking, Inna lahu la hafidhun, Inna lahu la nasihun. That's it. They've reached a stage now where there's no hope now. I can't even tell them not to take him. They're going to do it anyway. Yeah. Wallahu alam. It seems like this is perhaps the reason why. Okay, quick activity. Read here on the slide. They sought to make tawbah before the crime, to make doing it easy on them. And yet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as Qurtubi mentioned, did actually accept their tawbah at the end. At the end of the story, Yusuf alayhi salam forgives them, and it is there implied that Allah has also forgiven them and they have reformed themselves. طيب. Now the question is, what does that teach us about Tawbah, about Allah, and about sinners? The fact that they said something that they shouldn't really have said. I mean, you shouldn't say, I'm going to make Tawbah before you do the sin. Should you? You shouldn't do that. Yeah? You shouldn't justify your sin by saying, I'm going to make Tawbah. But they did. And the other thing is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala never condemned or censored them for saying such words. Allah never said what they said was wrong. Do you get that point? The story just continues on. Yeah? In the Quran, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala relates what somebody says, and if it's wrong, evil, then what follows or the context shows that Allah disapproves of what was said. However, here there's no indicator whether it was right for them to say that or wrong for them to say that. Do you see what I'm saying? Tayyib. Now with that in mind, the question which you need to discuss, 2 minutes, what does that teach us about Tawbah, about Allah, and about sinners? Yani, is this statement a good statement to make or not? We already agreed it's not a good statement, right? And someone should make the statement that I'm going to do Tawbah after I do the sin. That's already clear. But they did say it, and Allah never censored them. And on top of that, Allah did forgive them in the end. So what do we learn from this then? What does that teach us about sinning, Allah, and Tawbah in general? Is the question clear? It's clear? Tayyib. Okay, so now let's start very quickly. Okay, so let's select 2 people from this side, one pair from this side. I think we asked you last time. Let's ask you 2 brothers here in the front. What do you think? Yeah. Yalla, come on, no time.
Alright, we've just come to a quick.
Yeah, that's very good. So the first thing you mentioned, that Tawbah is very powerful, even if it comes from a corrupt intention. Is always something you said? Yeah.
The intention was corrupted.
No, sir. And the second thing, that Allah is most merciful. The third thing, we'll leave that one for now, inshallah. Okay, and YouTube brothers there.
Allah is most forgiving.
Allah is most forgiving now.
And that they seem sincere.
They seem sincere. Okay. And one pair from here, this side, inshallah. Anyone think that they have something to contribute that they think this needs to be heard? No? Alright, I'm just going to have to select someone then. This brother there, yeah, yourself, with the blue coat on, yeah. Allah knew that they would repent after. Tayyib, yes. Yes. Tayyib. Now, that's a side point, which is that, they transgress the haqq of, someone from khalq, another person. And if that person, it's up to them whether they forgive or not. Now, but tawbah, yeah, they infringed on the right of Allah Jalla wa'ala, which is to look after their brother, which is not to lie, and all those other things as well. Okay, good answers, mashallah. The summary is as follows. Is it better, my brothers and sisters, for a person to say before they sin, I want Allah to forgive me, or I will ask Allah to forgive me, or for them to say, you know what, I'm not even intending to ask Allah to forgive me? What's better? The first one, the second one? The first one, right? Even though that is wrong. Do you see that? That even though that is wrong, it is still better than not having an inclination or intention to make tawbah. Yeah. The other thing, subhanAllah, teaches us that Allah Jalla wa'ala, He looks into the hearts of the people. And if the person, even though when doing evil, wants to eventually change, really change, inwardly, desiring it, Allah will help him change. Subhanallah. Allah looked at their hearts, and though they were planning on doing evil, in their plan and speaking of that evil, they also mentioned that they also have a desire to ask Allah to forgive them. And Allah saw that. Subhanallah. And Allah Jalla wa'ala liked that. And that is why it seems that Allah never censored what they said. I never said that what they said this was wrong. Yeah, because from one perspective it's wrong, from another perspective it is far better to be like this and to say, I'm going to do evil. How can I'm a hypocrite if I ask Allah, forgive me? Yeah? And we'll speak about it, inshallah, in the lessons. We'll take the lesson, inshallah, after the salah. Subhanakallah wa bihamdika, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Wa jazakumullahu khairan. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Okay, so now let's move to the lessons. What do we learn from this passage? You'll be amazed at how many lessons, subhanAllah, the scholars of Tafseer have deduced from this passage. But before I go to the durus, the lessons, one point of Tajweed here. There's one very unique Tajweed point here that you don't find anywhere else in the Quran. It's called Ishmam. Okay, Ishmam. Qurtubi mentioned this in his tafsir. This verse here where the brothers say, قَالُوا يَا أَبَانَا مَا لَكَ لَا تَأْمَنَّا. The tajweed rule, in fact, doesn't impact on the way you say, the pronunciation, or the way you would hear the reciter say it. However, it is reported from the Prophet ﷺ that when he said this word تَأْمَنَّا, he made a particular expression with his lips. It's like this: مَا لَكَ لَا تَأْمَنَّا عَلَى Yusuf. Now that doesn't make any difference in the way that it sounds, but the Prophet did this, and therefore tajweed is to recite the Quran as the Prophet recited it, and so it became a tajweed rule that the Qurra, they know of and they still continue to practice up until today, which is amazing. That subhanallah, yani Quran, all of it as the Prophet was revealed to the Prophet, and the way it was recited up to and including this subtle point is preserved until now, 2014. And it's amazing. Everything in this deen, Allah preserved it. So that's a point of tajweed. Now, discussing about Yaqub alayhi salam. Now we said last time that Yaqub alayhi salam was an amazing father to his children. Allah wanted us to, focus and pay attention to how he gave, upbringing to his children, tarbiyah. So we had the discussion, the advice of Yaqub alayhi salam to Yusuf alayhi salam, and we discussed some of the lessons. Now the question arises here, which is that their brothers envied Yusuf alayhi salam. They really didn't like him, and they told, and they said the reason why we don't like Yusuf is because our father loves him more. Now this may make someone ask a question, which is that why was Yaqub alayhi salam dealing with the children in this way that led them to become more envious of Yusuf alayhi salam? Why was he showing favoritism towards Yusuf alayhi salam? And can you see this question? Yeah, why was he showing favoritism towards them? Well, this is something that obviously we shouldn't be doing as parents. Now, looking at this verse here, Sa'di rahimahullah has something to say. The verse in which the brothers say, "Uqtulu Yusuf aw itrahuhu ardan yakhlu lakum wajhu abikum," where they say, let's kill him or toss him to one side in order for dad's face to be brought into our attention exclusively, was interpreted by Sa'di to mean that they desired the heart and the mind of Yaqub to be free from thinking of Yusuf alayhi salam and instead be thinking and be thinking about them. Now, what is interesting about this particular wording is that he never said that they wanted Yaqub to spend more time with them. Did he? He never said this. He said they wanted his heart to become free of occupation from Yusuf alayhi salam and instead be focused on them. So what's the difference between saying, we want dad to spend more time with us, than saying we want dad to only think about us, or to think about us more and not to think about Yusuf alayhi salam? What's the difference between the two? Come on, it's not that hard question.
Envy.
Envy? One word answers is not usually a good idea. What do you mean by envy?
They were envy the way this is bearing on this only.
They were envious of something to do with Yaqub alayhi salam, and they said that they felt that dad loved him more than them. Established. However, on the other side, Yaqub alayhi salam could be said to be blameworthy, in that some would say, well, the reason why they were envious is because dad spent more time with the other two. Dad was, bought the other two more things. However, we said that Tafseer by Sa'di rahimahullah is that they wanted dad's heart to be less preoccupied with Yusuf alayhi salam and rather to be preoccupied with them, which is different to saying they wanted dad to spend more time with them. Yes?
So you could say it's only on because like...
No, but that's what we're saying. The interpretation is that they're not saying they want dad to spend more time with them because he's not spending enough time with us, he's spending more time with Yusuf alayhi salam. That's not what was the interpretation given by Sa'di. So that's what we're trying to work out. What's the difference between the two? Now, ahsant. This is the answer. That had the case been that dad was spending more time with another child over this child, then that would be unjust. However, if dad thinks about this child more than that child and loves this child more than that child, is that injustice? Didn't the Prophet love Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha more than any other wife? He did. Is that unjust of the Prophet? No, of course it's not unjust. So in terms of behaving, spending time, this is behavior. This is where there needs to be an element of justice. As for what the heart feels and what the mind thinks of, that's not the same thing, is it? Sometimes you can't help that you love one child over the other. Now here, many scholars of Tafseer like Ibn Atiyah rahimahullah said that the reason why Yaqub loved the other two more is because number one, they were younger, and then your children, the youngest, when they're so young and they're just crawling and walking and then beginning to speak, obviously you love and you feel for them more than the elder one. That's true. And also they said that the mother of these two passed away when they were young. Okay. However, we also can say there's a third thing, which is the way Yusuf spoke to his dad. We spoke about that, where he said, "Ya abati." He spoke to him in such a nice, kind, affectionate, respectable way, and that he was humble as well, and he was smart. All of these things, obviously if your child is like that, you're going to feel towards them a particular way. But that's the thing. It's about the way he felt, not the way he behaved with them. So if you understand it like this, then there is no questioning Yaqub alayhi salam being unjust to his children. There's no questioning. The Prophet ﷺ said, "I'dilu." He said, "Wattaqullah wa'adilu bayna abna'ikum." In the hadith Sahih Bukhari and Muslim, that fear Allah and be just amongst your children. Now, to say the opposite is to imply Yaqub alayhi salam wasn't doing this, which is, you can't say this. You can't say this. So this is the way that you understand this. The other thing, my brothers and sisters, is please listen to this. Once a man came to the Prophet ﷺ, Hadith Nu'man ibn Bashir radiyallahu ta'ala, and he said, I got a gift for one of my children. Can you approve of that? Can you bear witness to that? And the Prophet ﷺ in one narration said, did you get it for every single one of them? He said no. And in that narration he said, then either you get it for all of them, or you take this one back. You take this one back. What we learn from this hadith, is that the fuqaha, first of all, they said this gifting one child something over the other child either is haram or it is makruh. They differed, but all of them agreed this is wrong. However, they made a distinction. There's a difference between looking after your children and meeting their needs and gifting them. And I'll show you the difference. You got 4 children. Now they're all sitting around the table having breakfast. So now you're going to pour them some cereal, and you're going to kill Frosties, for example, and then you're going to say, oh, I've got more in that plate than the other one. But one's 2 years old, one's 3, one's 10. You're telling me that you have to fill up the bowl equally for all of them? Is that what we're saying here? One child goes to university, you're paying the tuition fees, thousands of pounds. The other child is just in secondary school. No, I need to take 9 grand out, I need to spend it on this child as well because I'm spending on that child. The Prophet says, "I'dilu bayna abna'ikum." Be just. So how do we understand this? The way you understand this is that there's a difference between maintaining or looking after your children and gifting them. When it comes to gifting them, you need to be just and equal. Eid day comes, dad's going to give money to everyone. Dad says, you know what, you're not that smart, you only get £10. You, mashallah, come over here, £50 note. No, this is not right. This is gifting. Okay, this is where injustice is taking place, and this is where either you're doing something haram or something makruh. But as for looking after the child, one child is ill and you need to spend a lot of time, money, looking after this one because of that's their need. And if it's based on their needs and looking after them, then that is according to their need. If they need more, you give them more. If they need less, you give them less. And if you give them less, it doesn't mean you're being unjust. As for gifting, it need to be equal. Does this make sense? Khalas? Okay. Let's move on now to some of the lessons we learned from this portion. Okay. Number one lesson is mentioned by Ibn Ashur, rahimahullah. He said, this passage gives us an insight into bad character and behavior. He said, look at, the number of evil things that they did here. Number one is trying to take out a rival. They perceived Yusuf alayhi salam to be a rival to them, and what they tried to do is to rob the rival of their blessing. Rob the rival of the blessing. Yusuf alayhi salam is more beloved to dad, and so they thought, let's rob that love of him by getting rid of him. On top of that, he said, this, eliminating a rival's blessing was mixed with hasad, evil. Evil of envy. On top of that, it was mixed with, contravening, going against the command of Allah to look after your younger sibling. He said all of these three things came together, and they show us, they're like an ibrah. Teaching us a lesson in what bad character looks like and what kind of behavior is included in it. Looking at others through the lens of rivalry, and then wanting to act on that and take out the rival, and then hating on them through envy, and then also, if you've been commanded to look after them, going against that commandment. So that's one thing, okay. And subhanAllah, it's very evil the way they spoke about Yusuf alayhi salam, and to think that he was a brother, thinking of killing him and all the rest of it. The other lesson is shaitan's trick of tawbah. Sa'di rahimahullah mentioned this point, that here when the brothers said وَتَكُونُوا مِن بَعْدِهِ قَوْمًا صَالِحِينَ, and after we do our evil we'll become righteous people. There's three things that they were trying to say here. Number one is that they were saying to themselves, they were trying to justify the sin. That it's okay if we do it because we're going to do tawbah afterwards. It's okay if we do it because we're going to do tawbah afterwards. So they're trying to justify the sin. That's one thing. The second thing is they're trying to take the edge off the sin. What does that mean? Well, killing someone, murder, that's a terrible thing to even plan, to think about doing. As in terms of psychology, in order to bring yourself to do such a wrong thing, you need to, encourage yourself. So one of the ways you encourage yourself is you say, it's not really that bad thing if you look at it from this perspective, or from that perspective. Those people that on the London riots, for example, they went through all those JD sports stores, getting their sneaks and all the rest of it. And what did they say afterwards? They're from socially deprived areas, That's why they did what they did. I had to, I had a bad childhood. I never had things easy, for me. That's why I had to go rob people. Really? Okay. So justification. Okay. And the other thing is you're trying to take the edge off the evil. It's not that evil, I'm going to do tawbah afterwards, That's another thing that we see very common. The third thing he mentioned is to build consensus. There are 10 of them there. 10 different minds there planning. And look at the plan, is so evil. And one of the ways that you get everyone to agree to the plan is you encourage them. So one of the ways that they were getting them to agree is they're saying, it's okay, we'll sort ourselves out afterwards. It's so bad, how can we do that? It's okay, don't worry, after we sort everything out, alright? Sort things out with dad, sort things out with Allah, it's okay, no problem. So look at the way they spoke. And this is from the trap of shaitan. And he does this with every single one of us. That when, وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ, a person plans on sinning, then they come up with justifications, okay? Or at least things to make it easy on their own nafs, which is telling them this is wrong, don't do this. In order to make that voice, go quiet, you come up with the other justifications, okay? And nafs al-ammara bis-su is coming, the other part of the soul which encourages and entices someone to do evil. Okay, so that's another lesson. A third lesson is that not to be ruled by emotion. And here the brothers are being ruled by the emotion of anger. They're so angry against Yusuf and also their father. How could he be like this towards us and not them? That's getting the better of them, and they're just thinking on emotion, acting on emotion, and look at the plan that they came up with. Another lesson here is the destructive nature of hasad. That envy drove them to plan to take the life of their own brother. Now the thing is, my brothers, where are they living? Are they living in a socially deprived area, or parents that abuse them, or I don't know, broken home? What kind of home are they living in? Whose home is it? A home of a prophet. A prophet of Allah. Imagine the influence their dad had over them. Imagine the environment they lived in. Despite that, they came up with this plan to kill their brother. And it shows us, subhanAllah, that envy can make a person forget about everything. It can make a person forget about everything. We also mentioned that and if you look at the first ever murder committed in mankind by Qabil against Habil, why did he kill him? Why did he murder him? Well, because of hasad. And shaitan, we mentioned also that one of the two reasons why he refused to bow down to Adam alayhi salam was hasad. At-Tabari mentioned hasad in the verse of Surah Yasin. أَلَمْ أَحَدَ إِلَيْكُمْ يَا بَنِي آدَمَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا الشَّيْطَانِ. Here Tabari said, that what is Allah is saying, what is the matter with you? That how can you worship shaitan, who refused to bow down out of hasad to your very father, Adam alayhi salam. So hasad, is the root cause of many, many evils. Kufr here, and also of qatl as well. طيب. The next lesson. Sa'di mentioned that here we're learning that sins beget more sins. It's very interesting, because initial sin is that they are just envious. That's already a sin in and of itself, to feel that envious about somebody else. Then to act on it, to plan to kill or to throw your brother, dead in a well. That's another sin. Then another sin on top of that is having to lie. مَا لَكَ لَا تَأْمَنَّا. They come to the dad and start to make up stories. Why don't you trust us, Dad? We're going to take him tomorrow. We're going to take him to a mela. He's going to eat, drink, play, everything, Dad. Don't worry about it. Lying, and those lies end up having to be more lies. Later on, they actually have to come back after doing the deed. Yabakun, crying. They've got to force themselves to cry. One sin leads to so many other sins. So Allah is teaching us that any sins, they have consequences. Consequence in the akhirah and consequences in this dunya as well. Okay, طيب. The other thing, as Sa'di rahimahullah mentioned, that we learn not all sins are equal. Who can tell me where he derived this lesson from? Not all sins are equal. Yeah, at the end of this, when you have these chocolates, at the end, the ones that no one likes is left. So sorry, the Mars, no one. I don't think many people like. The Milky Way, all gets left at the end. But anyway, inshallah, we'll give it to somebody. What do you think, Yani? Where did he derive this lesson from? Not all sins are the same.
When they murder him,
Yep.
they realize it's too bad of a sin, so they try to expel him from the land and throw him into the well.
Okay, very good. So the fact that they considered qatl, but then they said, no, let's not do qatl, let's go to something lesser, which is to leave him in the well. But even, subhanAllah, leaving him in a well for dead, and he's not that much better, but just the brother, please. So here, Sa'di rahimahullah showed us that, look, sins are not the same. Murdering someone is not the same as throwing him into a well. That they are different, okay? So he, building on top of that lesson, another principle, which is that choosing the lesser of the two evils. Meaning, if you are in a position, now please listen to this, if you are in a position where evil is going to be done, one way or the other it's going to happen, but you can choose either this evil or that evil. It's going to happen. You can't say, yani, no, I'm not going to have anything to do with this. No, it's going to happen. This one or this one. What should you do in that case? You should choose the lesser of the two evils. Okay? In kuntum fa'ilin, if you're going to do this, to do something bad to Yusuf, don't do the worst thing, do the better thing. Okay? Better of the two evils. Okay? Even that, subhanAllah, is not a very good idea. Anyway, Tayyib. Okay. Can you see this lesson? Tayyib, is that clear? Any questions about this? No? Okay, very good. Now, the last lesson is something mentioned by Qasimi. Now, this is quite interesting. He said that, we learn something about hasad here, which is that rank and position are a precursor to hasad. Now, what does that mean? I have this diagram here, and he's explaining how hasad it works, okay? How envy builds inside a person. So he said there are two, if you like, precursors to hasad. So a person is envious of another. Okay. First of all, how are we defining hasad? Hasad, any generally agreed upon definition, is that a person wishes that the blessing of another is removed. This is the definition. Okay. A worse type of hasad is that the blessing is removed and I am given it instead. And some said even a worse type is that the blessing is removed, I have given it and they're given something worse instead. Levels. But the basic meaning, you want a blessing to be removed from another person. Okay, how did that even reach that point? How did the person even start thinking and feeling like that? Two things came before. One of two things came before. Number one, he said position or fame. Now here he said, they call themselves usbah, which is a gang, a strong group of individuals. They pride themselves in the fact that they are a sizable force. They are like a gang. Now that's a position, right? It's a position to have. It's like a rank in a position. So they said, because of our position, Dad should love us more. If Dad doesn't love us more, then who does he love instead of us? That one there? That one there now is going to be the subject of our hasad. That one there is going to be the subject of our hasad. And this happens, subhanAllah, in workplace, for example. You find that the people are in pursuit of a promotion. And the guy who can give the promotion, the boss, supervisor, manager, everyone likes to, suck up to that person. So everyone's in pursuit of the position. But the position is actually going to make you look at everybody else who's going for that position in a different way, right? The person who might get that position above you, what are you going to feel like towards him? Envious. Do you see? So what came before the hasad? The pursuit of the position. So they had this mentality that we have a position. How comes, Dad? Him. They're envious of him. The second thing is money. Pursuit of money and wealth and property and all the rest of it. And we know that this is, subhanAllah, something very true as well. That one of the reasons why people suffer from envy is because they're so wrapped up in dunya that they can't stand. How comes that person managed to get that car? That sister over there managed to get that, that dress or that abaya or something of that nature, and I can't. My husband doesn't let me buy those things. How comes? So she becomes envious. It's not the person that was first. In fact, it was the hubb ad-dunya, the love of the dunya first. And that then made them look at others in a particular way, and that made them envious. Then he said the consequence of envy is makr, is plotting. The hasad is one thing, but trying to kill Yusuf or get rid of him, that's a plot, right? So the plot was the evil fruit of the hasad, and the hasad was the consequence of the pursuit of position or title or fame. Clear? Okay. And you know what? Just a side point that Going back to what Yaqub said to his son, son, you had this amazing dream. لا تقصص رؤياك على إخوتك. Don't go telling your brothers about this dream. The dream represents a blessing. Yaqub is saying, don't show that blessing to people out there. Okay, especially your brothers, they're not going to like it. And that really teaches us a lesson in our times where we, live in a culture of selfies, where people like to take selfies, and not just any selfies or what they're eating, what they're wearing, where they're going. Everything's there on Facebook. Open up the person's profile, where he's been, all the nice things he's eaten, things he buys, and even the way he looks, she looks, and makeup and all the rest of it. You're just airing out there to the public all of your blessings. All the things that Allah has given you, money, wealth, good looks, all the rest of it. A person is doing the opposite of what Yaqub told his son not to do, which is, you're blessed, don't go telling other people about your blessings, okay? Especially those that you think will not like it. Okay, will not like it. So we should really, subhanAllah, take one lesson from just this part of the story, that a person should be careful about their blessings. Yeah? And forget about the arrogance factor. Forget about the arrogance factor that comes with promoting yourself and sharing with other people the things that you do and all the rest of it. Just look at it from preserving yourself from hasad. Yeah, preserving yourself from hasad. If you go around telling people about how great your life is, someone's going to hate on you. And if someone does hate on you, and as a result you suffer, you got no one to blame but your own self. Okay. طيب. We'll end here inshallah. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.